welcome to Afghanistan in the summer of 2025. Now, before we get into the report, there's one important note. We are guests in this country and there are certain rules we needed to follow.
Next to the Mosque of the King of Two Swords in central Kabul, streets and bazaars are bustling with life. People are hurrying to prayer or to go about their day, among old vendors selling fruits and vegetables, other necessities, or a quick bite of Afghan street food. It's been 4 years since the Taliban came back to power in Afghanistan. Their second stint in charge came following the American military withdrawal from the country in 2021, following 2 decades of US presence. 4 years on, they say they seek positive relations with all countries. We sat down with the head of the Directorate for Europe in the new Foreign Ministry and its spokesperson, Abdul Kahar Balki, to ask what was done and what's their vision.
And the biggest achievement, obviously, is ending the occupation of Afghanistan. We see Afghanistan with the potential of connecting the region and the world as the crossroads and the heart of Asia. And we will strive towards, after 50 years of conflict, to turn Afghanistan into a hub of cooperation amongst the many stakeholders.
The new law of the land has been under global scrutiny for their policies, especially towards women. Even with diplomatic staff in other countries, as well as hosting envoys from abroad, the Taliban government is recognized only by Russia as of yet.
One thing we have to keep in mind is that recognition or the announcement of recognition of a government is a pure political choice of the countries. From our perspective, we believe that it is in the interest of all the stakeholders, not only Russia, but our neighbors, the region, and the wider world, that Afghanistan's government is recognized and this political step is taken at the earliest opportunity by all the stakeholders involved. This will connect the people of Afghanistan and the government of Afghanistan, the state of Afghanistan, with all the other member states of the international community.
To get more of a sense of what regular Afghans think of the current situation in the country, we came to one of the most frequented places and one of the most famous landmarks in Kabul, the Babur Garden.
Just at the gate, Shah Mahmud is patiently fixing up his display of jewelry. His life began and will end with this job, he says, with more than 30 years in the trade. At noon, he's still waiting for the first customers of the day.
پیش از این کاروبار زیاد بود که زنها رو اعلام میکرد در وقت جمهوریت در وقت کاروبار خوب بود ولی دیگه کسی نیست بزنس ما طول بزنس نکردیم فعلا امن از جنگ نیست ما خوش هستیم دیگه خدا بزرگ است که امی کاروبارم آستا آستا خوب شده بره دیگه
In the vast 11-hectare park established in the early 16th century by the founder of the Mughal dynasty, we meet Hamid, who's there with friends. Currently a student, Hamid tells us he was a refugee in Iran for 5 years and has clear hopes for his country.
ما جوانا دیگه مصروفیت که تقاضای ما از دولت ما دیگه همی است که ما میخوایم اولش به دخترایی که درس نمیخوانن اونا رو باید مد نظر داشته باشن دوم دیگه جوانای ما که باید کشور ما خیلی چیزای پیشرفته باشه که جوانای ما بتونه پیشرفته زیاد را داشته باشن مثال از لحاظ کاروبار از لحاظ درس ما بدبختانه در کشور ما شرکت چیز ایسه کاروبار نداریم که جوانای ما بتونن کار کنن خیلی جوانای ما بدبختانه مسافر به کشورهای همسایه میشن که اونجا ما آزار اذیت میبینیم دیگه کشور خود ما فعلا از لحاظ آرامی ما خیلی خوش هستیم آرام دوزی و گپای بعضی گپای بد نیست اما دیگه بدبختی ما همیست که یک ذره کاروبار در کشور ما خیلی کم است
As we move on to the next of the 15 terraces of the garden, we see Haji Bacha Khan listening to some old-timey Afghan tunes. He spent much of his life in Afghanistan and visits from Pakistan every year.
دلته د کار لرم تقریبا یو څه کاروبار سته دلته هیڅ کاروبار نشته امن سته منم د خلک منم د سم د سنې منم دا نظام منم خوشاله یم دلته ممتاز دغه یو شی څه د من کاروبار دا نظام ما خوښي دلته زموږ اسلامي ټولنه کې روسي او اسلامي ټولنه خوښيږي نظام هم خوښيږي.
Near the very top of the garden is the final resting place of King Babur. It is said his body was buried elsewhere against his wishes and ultimately brought to the garden, where the inscription on the headstone reads, "If there is a paradise on earth, it is this." On the terrace below stands one of the most significant historical buildings in Kabul, the mosque commissioned by Shah Jahan I in the middle of the 17th century as he visited Babur's grave. Taking up one of the top corners of the garden is the Queen's Palace, built in the second half of the 19th century by then local ruler Amir Abdurrahman Khan for his wife Bibi Halima. The palace offers one of the best views of the capital. Just near the palace we meet Shams, who's there with his family. This unemployed computer scientist says the economy is doing okay, but doesn't see many opportunities in the country.
فعلا که آرزوی مگان آرزوی می است که یا در ایجا یا در خارج از کشور ادامه تحصیل کنم، درس خود ادامه بدم، چون در افغانستان فکر نکنم فعلا که ادامه تحصیل داده بتانم. دنبال میام هستم که یک بورسیه خارجی بکشم و درس ما ادامه بدم، زمینه کار بر ما مساعد شود، در خارج تحصیل کنم، چون در پولی درس باید کارم کنم. اما در افغانستان این رقم نیست. اگر تحصیل کردی کار میمانه، اگر کار کردی تحصیل میمانه، درس میمانه. باید دویش یک برابر باشه، چون جوان است به خرج مصارف تحصیل به پیسه ضرورت می داشته باشه. وقتی که کار نکنی تحصیل هم کردن نمیتونی. باید دویش باشه.
When the previous Western-backed government collapsed, thousands in the country scrambled, fleeing in fear of persecution. At that moment, millions were already either internally displaced or have sought refuge and economic opportunities in neighboring countries, Iran and Pakistan for the most part. Those countries are sending them back, over 1 million Afghans this year alone. Such an influx of returnees, many with just clothes on their backs, lays heavily on the already stretched capacities in the country, the job market especially. Harun found himself without a job following the collapse. In the past 2 years, he's managed to turn his passion into a living. He now takes photos of tourists visiting the Darul Aman Palace. He says he's grateful that there is work available.
خب این 4 سال گذشته خوب بود. همه راضی هستند، فقط یک مشکل است که یکی خال مهاجرین هم تقریبا کشور ایران مهاجرین هم اخراج کردن. به خاطر از دولت، ما از دولت فقط همین تقاضا را داریم که کم کار زیاد کنه، جوانا در کار مشغول شوند، دیگه شوند تا اصلا مجبور نشن برن به دیگه جای مسافرت کنن یا اوج سختی ها را طی کنیم. خب خدا را شکر آل آرام هستیم، جنگ نیست، آرامی است. خدا را شکر صبح مبراهیم، شب بخیر به خانه میریم، دیگه سپرد ما به خدا، راضی هستیم.
The palace itself was built in the 1920s by then King Amanullah Khan, who hired German and French engineers and architects. The European-style palace was meant to become the center of a new capital for a modern Afghanistan. Throughout the years, it was burned down 3 times, with the latest renovation ending in 2020. Across the garden is the former Parliament of Afghanistan. Built with help from India, it now sits empty, as the new authorities have no need for one. Just near the palace, the road takes us to the National Museum. Originally opened in 1919, it settled in its current location in 1931.
The National Museum of Afghanistan is managed in 2 floors. The first floor is we organized mostly Islamic period artifacts, but among them we have some artifacts which related to some empires like Kushan, Sassanid, and other empires that was passed in Afghanistan. The most visitors we have from school students, but besides this, we have a lot of foreign people who come and visit the National Museum of Afghanistan every day.
In more recent history, the iconic Chicken Street used to be a top tourist attraction. Along with surrounding antique and flower streets decades back, it was brimming with tourists. The area is still quite busy, but foreign visitors are fewer. For more than 30 years, the Shafi family has had a shop, selling mementos, carpets, jewelry, and all sorts of knickknacks to curious tourists. Mohammed recalls how things have changed throughout the years.
Actually, when the last time's government of Taliban fell down, the Karzai was good. They took the power, and mostly the tourists used to come in Kabul, mostly in the chicken street, which was very famous for the foreigners.
The palace.
The business took a serious hit under the new government, Mohammed says, but tourists still come, mostly from the US, the EU, Russia, and China.
Comparing to the last government, around more than 80% is off totally, but hopefully to be better in future. There are mostly maybe the medias, they telling something about the Afghanistan, mostly about the fight, but they don't believe, they shouldn't believe such things.
According to the UN, nearly half of Afghanistan's population needs humanitarian assistance to survive. However, the country experienced modest GDP growth in the 2023-2024 period. There are projects to kickstart the economy in the works, and most rely on international cooperation. The Turkmenistan, Afghanistan, Pakistan, India gas pipeline is one of them. Once completed, it is meant to transport some 33 billion cubic meters of gas annually from Turkmenistan to the 3 countries. Afghanistan's part is under construction, and the country stands to earn some $400 million yearly in transit fees alone.
We're also working diligently with our counterparts in Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Turkey to realize the Lapis Lazuli route and make it a very active and functional integral part of the connectivity projects. We're also working with Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan to connect Afghanistan with South Asia, the Trans-Afghan railroads.
Beyond those mountains you see behind me is Turkmenistan. We're here at the Port Torgundi in Afghanistan's western province of Herat. This is one of 2 starting points of the Lapis Lazuli corridor, the other one being in the north of the country. The trade route connecting Afghanistan to Turkey via Turkmenistan, Azerbaijan, and Georgia is named after this, Lapis Lazuli, the famed Afghan blue gemstone. In ancient times, more than 2,000 years ago, the gemstone was moved along a similar route.
The deal reviving the route was inked in late 2017 by the 5 countries along the corridor. Daily, this port handles 2 trains with 25 wagons each, as well as 200 to 300 trucks carrying goods in and out of the country. All these numbers fluctuate depending on the season. Goods coming in range from fuel and grain to aid, while beverages, seeds, stone, paints and fruits make up most of the local goods sent from the port. At the time of our visit, the local officials tell us that huge amounts of wheat are coming in from Kazakhstan. Making our way for Herat city, we see that many of the roofs, like in Kabul, are adorned with solar panels. As green as it may seem, it serves a more practical purpose, given the frequent power blackouts. Most of the electricity is imported from neighboring countries, and the capacities of the de facto authorities to provide electricity are simply not enough. They're topped up by locals who can afford to turn to renewable energy. In the city, we met with Herat's former director of economy to talk on the Tapi and Lapis Lazuli projects and the overall outlook for Afghanistan.
پروژه توپی که انتقال گاز پروژه کلی از از ترکمنستان الی ایندیا 4 کشور در نقش داره که افغانستان هم یک قسمت است. خصوصا که حدود 700 کیلومتر از داخل خاک افغانستان خواهد گذشت و یک نفع به افغانستان از دو جهت، هم انتقال گاز برای آسانی کار برای استفاده تقریبا 4 ولایت کشور افغانستان استفاده میشه و هم از انرژی گاز استفاده میکنن و هم محصول ازی برای افغانستان از نقطه نظر اقتصادی بسیار مهم است. بخش ترانزیت در اقتصاد همه کشورها نقش داره. بنابراین هر قدر ترانزیت یا مسیر راههای انتقالی بیشتر شه، این موثرتر برای اقتصاد کشور. این که این پروژه که شما نام بردین بسیار مهم است برای از اینکه یک عنصر مهم اقتصادی را در بر میگیره.
No visit to Herat could go without seeing the Grand Mosque. Hailed by some as perhaps the most beautiful mosque of the region, its foundations were laid in the year 1200 under the Ghurid Sultan Ghiat al-Din Muhammad Ghori. It's gone through numerous restorations and expansions since, and the current look and dimensions came from an overhaul in the 20th century. The blue tiles are a work of local artisans that continues to this day. Back in Kabul before our departure, we visited the Shah-e-Na Park. The green sanctuary in the middle of the city, beloved by many, dates back to the 19th century. It is a place to wind down after a long week, maybe play or watch some football or cricket, or even take a shot at archery. It is also perhaps the most fitting place to finish this report. This is not the full story of Afghanistan, nor did it mean to be. But despite all the current hardships and decades of war and turmoil endured, what we saw is a people hopeful for what might come.